Today I'm joined by Julie Delene of Move as One. Julie, thank you so much for being here today. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm good. I'm very good.
Julie, let's get right into it. Can you share a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, it's been a long journey of working with leaders and teams as a consultant for over 35 years, and I started Move as One in 1998, and so a long time digesting and processing what Move as One was and is. And my background was always, like I said, always in consulting. I was working at Arthur Andersen and really discovered, broadened my experience working with leaders and teams through some significant training, and found facilitation was kind of my gift and the thing I was really drawn to. And what happened as I started to facilitate lots of different transformative experiences within organizations, what we call re-engineering at that time, was that it was not so much about changing the processes or changing the business practices as much as it was a combination of opening people up to creativity and opening and consciousness and expressing things in a different way. So that became this holistic approach, what I call Move as One, a system that includes all those aspects, all those elements for working with leaders and teams. And as I was just mentioning to you, when I named it, I was ballroom dancing. I was, as an amateur, ballroom dancing, and I really found what I was learning on the dance floor was about embodied leaders and co-creative teams, and that essence that I was trying to express. And so it gave me a lot more content and ways to talk about how to get into that interconnected relationship together.
That's an interesting jump from ballroom dancer to consulting and leadership. Was there something in those early days that really sort of sparked your curiosity to move in that direction or a particular event?
Yeah, for sure. My moment of transformation was when I learned Miracle of the Breath training. And that was the start of mindfulness and understanding that connection inside to my own breath, body, brain, my own ecosystem, what I call my inner ecosystem, and how that really helped me transform as a leader and as a consultant, and the way I worked with people. And it became something I wanted to teach and incorporate. And I found it kind of hard at that time. That was in 1995, when things were, meditation, mindfulness, all that. Yoga wasn't even as developed as it is now. And now you see it all over the place. So it was how to integrate that into strategic planning, implementation, team development, all those aspects, all those elements that go into working with an organization and making it prospered.
So obviously there are a lot of different aspects to your holistic practice and how you work with people. If you were to summarize that in one or two sorry, if you were to summarize that in one or two sentences, what would be how would you say, sorry, let me try this again. If you were to summarize that in one or two sentences, what's the number one thing that you help people with?
To really expand to a framework of an ecosystem, of how we are an ecosystem within, and how we connect with a team, and how we connect with an organization as ecosystems. And you can think of it as like a vortex of energy. And so to see and work with that vortex of energy and help to take care of all of the elements that are part of that vortex, then it helps to make it much more effective, much more whole, much more balanced, yeah, and much more effective. So,
I love that. I love that. So obviously, you've been in a leadership position for a number of years. You work with a number of leaders. That's your focus. How has your definition of leadership changed over the years?
Oh, well, we're in this time of transformation. And I've been writing about that since 2018, as far as we're in this whole change process. And there's a lot developed around that as far as the 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 movement of an 80-year cycle, how it expands, and what we're in this winter cycle, the fourth turning. And anyway, the point is, there's so much change happening so quickly and so fast that leaders are needing to be able to be change agents, which is what I used to call myself as a consultant. I was always coming in at the juncture of where things were just starting to change, or they wanted to change, or they wanted to grow, or they were merging with another organization, or they had new team members, or they had a new leader. So that moment of change, when I would come in and help to identify those change cycles, what I see right now is leaders are being asked to be change agents, because there's so much change going on. Now, the key in that is, turnover is high. How do we engage people for the long haul? It's not, people aren't staying out of loyalty anymore. They can move around so quickly. And now we have so much movement because of the online AI and all the things that are moving so fast. So we have to be accepting and able to change and invite people in. The other piece that I want to point out too is a lot of people, because of that, are getting have some sort of trauma. I mean, that's an overused word right now, but some form of reactive experiences. So, how to engage people and keep them engaged in a movement that they're not necessarily aware of the emotional content that new employees come in with. So, emotional intelligence, really key.
So emotional intelligence, and you spoke so emotional intelligence, and you mentioned agent of change a lot. So when you say change, are you also inferring like adaptability and fluidity in styles in working with people? Is that part of what you're encompassing as well?
So there's this whole understanding of the what I refer to as the five agents of change. And that comes from some background in Eastern wisdom that talks about them as agents of change. And knowing what those agents of change are and how to engage them is really helps with the whole process of movement, whether it is, like I said, growth, or wanting to bring something new into existence. These are the things that are needed to actually create anything. So I wrote the book Move to Create. What moves us? How do we get to that place? How do we get to envelop all the elements so that we can be very conscious and wise about how we're creating?
I love that. So very intentional using these elements to create the change that you seek either as a leader or a member or a participant in a larger organization. Is that is that it?
Absolutely. The other thing that's interesting is that, understanding the whole system helps us understand all the team elements that are needed. So team members come in with different elements, different strengths, and how to engage them in the movement. I also see within organizations that they are a particular element that they're strong in. And so then how do they fit themselves in the whole context and move as one? So the meaning, there's a lot of nonprofit organizations or mental health organizations that are really good at caretaking people. But how do they also engage some of the other strategic planning and growth and entrepreneurialism to really engage that proactive approach forward? rather than just being a response to the needs. So you need both. And then on the other side, I've worked with very entrepreneurial companies that are very strong in that movement, that thrust, but they don't know how to engage the other side that's caretaking and system oriented and um, takes care of the whole so that it's not just this push, 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 drive, drive, drive.
Sounds like it's a balancing act. There's a sweet spot or a point of equilibrium that needs to exist between these two. Um,
Understanding it. It's actually between all five agents of change. So understanding all five agents and then learning how to balance when they're at odds with each other, polarizing, and then what element to bring in. And also, as you do that, you start to understand your team differently. So that's what's really fun about the aspect of five agents of change.
you've clearly built something really solid. What's been working really well for you in your business?
Up until moving to Colorado, which was just this summer, it was all, relationship marketing and moving from one organization, getting introduced, knowing, having a plethora of contacts in the Midwest and the Minnesota area and, some of the other areas. Now, being down here, I feel compelled to take what my programs are, put them online as training tools, and launch in a different way. So, what's not working well is learning how to run a different business because it's more product and training focused rather than relationship and being inside an organization working side by side with the leader. So that's what's changing for me.
And how does that, or what kind of learnings do you get from that experience as a leader? What are your leadership learnings out of that?
For me, it's to access different experts that have done this. Lots of listening, finding out where I am needed right now the most, making those connections, and um, so practicing what I preach. It's absolutely. And I am. I mean, I teach how the elements teach us, but I am in the elements. We're in the mountains, and I get to experience the elements, and it really brings me into a place of wholeness for myself that makes me really happy. Um, so yeah.
So you get to walk your talk.
Absolutely. In a new way. I was always doing it and I was always discovering more and finding out what worked within an organization or how to best convey things. So it's always learning and growing. I mean, there's just really that's the fun of leading and consulting is to always be curious and exploratory and allow things to reveal and emerge. I love those words, emerging. Allowing things to emerge. It's really fun to see that, and you can always see it when there's really creative juices out there. That's what I do when I go into an organization is I find out where's the juice, what is the ecosystem that's moving it and how to support that juice, help other people to see that juice because there are parts that could be dying off that are not needed anymore and really help to emerge what's next.
I love that. I love that. And I imagine it would take a little bit of patience and persistence to allow these things to emerge and to evolve.
For me, that is true. I mean, for on my own ecosystem, when I'm in an organization, for me, it's very easy to listen and to see the sparks, to see what's cooking, and that comes from being an outside observer. That's the beauty of being an outside observer. But anytime we're stuck in our own ecosystem, something's not moving, it's harder, right? So that's why it's really fun to have different reflections or different experts or people that you trust that you can connect with and say, hey, how would you do this? And ask the questions, just ask the different questions. They say, and I learned this way back at Arthur Anderson, you're only as good as your questions. So being able to have those questions that are going to spark some curiosity, exploration, and insight to emerge.
Yeah, I love that. So true, so true. The power of questions, uh, and the right questions.
That's what I did. I created the game, the moves game 10 years ago now, and used that as a tool, as a prompt, because it asks questions or it gets people involved and um, asks them to do different activities. And the beauty of that is that it's not always me asking, it's the cards. And that's come through this 35 years of experience of what questions, what activities, what will spark movement in these different phases of the change agents.
I love that. If you could go back and give yourself some advice in your earlier entrepreneurial years, what would that be?
When I started, I always thought I was going to find another organization that I could be part of or join with. And I just kept discovering and building and finding out that this was my purpose. And just to enjoy that ride of being on my own with help. I mean, I've had lots of different people alongside of me assisting and learning as well. But the I think what I would want to tell myself is, you know, this is the best, to be able to create along the way and to have that kind of freedom, um, and not be concerned about it.
I love that. What part of building your business, sorry, let me, what part of building your business forced you to grow as a leader?
Yeah, the element I'm weakest in is what I call the fire element. So it's getting out and doing this kind of thing, being extroverted, not just the listener or the observer, and, but to really bring it out into a forward position of being the fire, being the light. And I'll tell you that's what ballroom dance did for me. It gave me some confidence to be completely embodied in all parts of my body and to be able to express from that place. So I found that to be an exhilarating place to engage my fire. Um, but it's not always easy. For an introverted person, it's just not.
As a fellow introvert, I completely agree. Fire is definitely not my element, by the
Interesting. We're
sounds
doing
of
this
it.
podcast. Here you are.
Well, I get like you, trying to expand and move out of my comfort zone. And this is one way of doing that for me. You'd never see me ballroom dancing because I simply do not have that level of coordination or skill, but look to expand my fire element and use my fire element in other facets and ways. Uh, Julie, you've learned so much from your journey. What's next for you, and what are you most excited about to create?
um, like there's it's a double-edged sword. This has been my baby. It's been something I've been developing a long time. So putting it together in little training packets and getting it out there. But it's a little hard to let go of that because it's it's what I've been using for so long. It's my niche, it's the way, but I feel like it's my mission to really get this out there in the later years of my life, to be able to teach it and to teach other young leaders as they're emerging how to do this, especially in such a fast-paced, changing world. It just is a really helpful tool. Uh, the other thing I think that I'm excited about is to be able to see those light bulbs go off in younger leaders as they start to feel some support from the framework. That offered me support for so long.
And at this stage of your journey, what does success look like for you now?
Like I said, being able to train younger leaders and people that are moving forward. I have, grandkids that are just starting to enter into the workforce, and I've been playing the game with them for years, and also teaching them the elements and what elements they are. And they're now of age to step forward, but they have their creative abilities with them, and they're doing really well. So I'm excited to share that more with others outside of my grandkids.
But they were good practice for all those years, and you get to refine the game with them.
Absolutely. And I'm so proud of them and know that they have, some good launch points, and their creative abilities are strong. So,
For sure. How lucky for them to have you as a
oh,
grandmother.
I don't know if they always, I was always nudging. So it's, but they're teaching me these days. I mean, they're just so growing so fast and expanding in so many great ways.
Julie, if you could give your clients one piece of advice this week, what would that be?
Yes. Well, one, is really take some time to pause, to be in that place of listening. So, and listening from within. But we're on such fast treadmills right now, and you don't even know you're on a treadmill. So, if you pause and you open up and allow the insights, ask the questions of yourself, and give some time so that you can turn yourself in the direction that will be most beneficial for you.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your insights today. Where can our listeners find you online?
Oh, yeah, that's wonderful. Move dash as dash one, ONE. So moveas1.com with dashes in between. And yeah, I'd love you to join my newsletter, and hopefully some training programs at some point in the future. But thank you so much for having me on the show.
My pleasure, and we'll definitely have those links in the show notes below. And again, thank you, Julie, for joining me on the Leadership Podcast. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you today.
All right.
Thank you for spending your time with me today on the Leadership Lab podcast. My hope is that this conversation sparked a new perspective or reinforced something you already knew. Until next time, keep leading with curiosity and intention.